Hi guys, today we are harvesting worm castings, so I thought it would be a good time to show a video of what we do when we harvest our castings. There's a lot of different ways to sift castings from bedding and worms, but for us right now, this is the easiest and most economical way. As our business grows, we'll be able to get some equipment that'll speed up the process, but this is kind of what we do for now. Here's our setup. Right here is a new bin that we have prepared. It's full of wood chip compost and leaf compost, about 3 inches in one of these mortar bins. And that'll be the bedding and the food for the worms to start off with. So very simple to do. We'll put that in the bin. I'll add some agricultural lime to help with the pH. And as you can see, those worms are diving down in and they don't like the light. And so that's the way that when we get them a new bedding, they like to want to escape, as you can tell, but those guys will head right back down because they don't like that light. So anyway, that's what it starts off with. And then in about 6 weeks, this is what that bin will look like. We do things a little bit differently than some, but this is what's most effective for us is we feed on the top of our bins. We don't just throw our worms into a bin full of produce and old rotten vegetables and fruit. I feed them about every 2 to 3 days, and I feed them on the top of their bedding. And that way they come up to eat and they leave the castings on the top. It also, for me, it prevents the smell of rotten vegetables and fruit. It definitely cuts down on the fruit flies that can come in. And it's just, I know that I have castings on the top. As you can see, there's a huge difference. That is, I would say, probably 99% worm castings. And so what we do in this process is I've got a little scale right here, and I will just come in here and I will just start grabbing the castings off the top of this. And as you can see, worms, these composting worms, like to stay in the top 2 to 3 inches of the soil. So it doesn't take long for you to get down in there and get into the worms. When we sell our castings, obviously we don't want to have them full of worms. For some people, they don't care because they're putting them in their gardens, right? And having more worms in there is not a bad thing. So in order for me to get the worms out, I put them underneath this light here. And what they'll do is they will go down into the middle of that ball of castings. So once I've given it some time for the worms to go down into the castings, I will just start to pull the castings off the top, and they should be free of worms till you get down a ways. And as you can see, as I get closer and I come out here on the sides, I can pick up the castings. And generally I have a lot bigger pile than I have right now, and it goes a lot quicker. But you can see I do that right there. Give it a little bit more time, those worms will continue to go down, and they'll go down until they hit that plastic. And when I'm done, they'll just be a ball of worms. I'll grab those worms when it's all said and done, and I'll just simply put it right back where I just got the castings, and they'll dive right back down into there. And so I'll repeat the process all over again. Like I said, generally I get a big pile going. I'll scrape this whole top off over here. And once you agitate them a little bit, they naturally want to keep going down. And so I usually will pile it up like this, and it'll irritate them enough to where they'll start to go down a little bit further. And I could even grab it right there, as you can see, put it in here and I'll weigh it. And I do 2 pounds at a time. And so once I'm done with that, I'll bring it over here and I'll put it into a bin like this. And this is 10 pounds of worm castings. Now you'll find some of the heavies in here, but I can be pretty confident in saying that this is 90% premium worm castings. It is moist, as you can see. So the microbes, the bacteria, the fungi, they are healthy in this. And so this is how I do it. This is the black gold of Fertilizer. Put this in your garden and unbelievable results. If you do some research on worm castings and those that have had experience with it, we're using in our own garden. We actually weren't going to sell any of our worm castings because we wanted to use them in our own garden so that we can show you guys what it actually does. But we've had such a high demand for worm castings that we decided that we'd start to harvest some and sell them off so that we can start to get, like I said, get some equipment that'll make this a little bit easier. So anyway, that is the process. It goes from compost like this, it's really heavy and gritty. And like I said, right here, I'll only go down until I start to hit those wood chips, because they are down in there eating it, but they like the produce that I blend up, and I'm going to show another video of how I feed them. But they'll come up and eat that before they really go back down in and start eating the other stuff. They love the fruit and vegetables. So you can see here's probably about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of pure castings. And so you can get quite a bit of castings off of just one bin. And the results you'll have in your garden are pretty much indescribable. As a matter of fact, the castings that these are the customer that is purchasing these castings, she grabbed me, she knew that we did the worm bait, and she said, "What do you do with your bedding?" And then that got us on the topic of worm castings, and it was kind of fun to find somebody that's actually used them and that is dedicated to them. She'd been waiting for somebody to produce worm castings here locally, and so she's purchasing all the worm castings that I can make right now and to put in her garden, because she says it's undescribable what it does for blossoms and disease control and for stem strength. And so it's pretty exciting. So you can turn your table scraps into this right here. That is simply all that is right there, is fruits and vegetables that have been blended up. I place a layer on top, and those worms come in and just start eating it, and that's what they leave behind. And so you can imagine the nutrients that this is full of, the microbes, and that's why they call it the best fertilizer in the world, is because of what's left behind. So very simple to do. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to us. You can call us at any time, 435-650-3308. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. It's a lot of fun. It's fascinating. And as you can see, these guys didn't like me putting them in their new bedding. And so they're trying to do a little escape. And so anyway, that light will push them back down in there and they'll be just fine. And that's what we've done with all of our bins. This is just a small portion of them, but this is what you can produce, and it's easy to do. So if you have any questions, let us know, and thanks for watching.